Sir John A. Macdonald once said, "When Newfoundland joins Canada, it will complete our nation. She holds the key to our front door." But in 1869, Newfoundland rejected confederation with Canada. On March 31, 1949, 80 years later, Sir John A. Macdonald's dream became a reality. For 15 years prior to that date, Newfoundland was governed by a 7-man commission appointed by the British government. In the early 30s, our public credit had run out, and our export markets had collapsed. The people had been reduced to poverty. The Commission of Government was Britain's answer to what they claimed was the people's inability to govern themselves. In letters patent, it was declared that Newfoundland would decide its own form of government when it was again self-supporting. The Second World War brought relative prosperity, and the people again wanted to elect their own government. The Parliament of Great Britain decided that Newfoundland would elect 45 representatives to attend a national convention for the purpose of recommending forms of government to appear on the ballot paper in a national referendum. From October 1946 to January 1948, people throughout Newfoundland and Labrador gathered around their radios to hear the 3 hours of recorded debate on the day's proceedings at the National Convention. In this way, the foundation of the Confederate cause was laid. Its leader was Joseph R. Smallwood, journalist, broadcaster, union organizer, and pig farmer. His main opponent was Major Peter Cashin, advocate of responsible government. Confederation with Canada first became an issue at the convention on October 28, 1946.
Mr. Chairman,
Fudge.
I feel that I cannot let this opportunity slip by without making some remarks to Mr. Smallwood's statement, wherein he stated that our people was, I think, 100 years behind time.
No.
What was it?
Newfoundland is behind the times, not the people.
I'm a Newfoundlander. I'm
talking about the country, not the people.
You said country.
Mr. Smallwood, address the chair, please.
Right. I further go to state that it is not expected, surely, or Mr. Smallwood expect us, surely, to join with him and in singing the tune to the throne of Mackenzie King.
Well, now, Mr.
Throne, I'm sorry, I'm not.
Excuse me, 1 second.
Rescue the Perry King, that's the tune.
Excuse me, Mr. Fudge.
Well, if it's for that reason that Mr. Smallwood, or if that's the reason he's given for the members of this convention to see eye to eye with him and vote for confederation, I don't think he'll ever get it through. I am not a Confederate, but if I could be convinced along these lines, perhaps I would. But, Mr. Chairman, gentlemen, it will take a lot of convincing before I will cast a vote for confederation with Canada. Let us take the eastern provinces of Canada and ask the men in these provinces what they...
Canada, any authority in Canada is going to disclose to us, an unauthorized body, the terms of confederation, with the chance that these terms will eventually be turned down by our people. Can you in all conscience consider that any authorized official body in Canada would so far commit themselves as to make themselves appear ridiculous to their own people?
We might
try. The whole idea is absolutely absurd, highly absurd.
We might ask.
We might go to Canada with our finger in our mouths and say, please, Mr. Canada, will you let us in? Mr. Smallwood wants us to go in, so let us go in.
And, sir, if it is in the best interest of the people of this country, and I repeat that, in the best interest of the people of this country, to affiliate with Great Britain as Northern Ireland is, to affiliate with Timbuktu or Canada, if it is in the interest of the people of this country, I'm for it, and I support any such motion made by anyone who cares to make it. Because I believe the people of this country.
Fools rush in wearing the spirit of faith. I am one, Mr. Chairman, who has confidence in the future of our country and our people, and I do not believe for a moment that this good ship of state is at all leaky, and I am not prepared to send out an SOS for a Canadian rescue tug.
Do not as yet recognize the rough hand of dictatorship, even when it is thrust into their very faces. As every man and woman in this island knows, if we could make some arrangement with the United States for the free entry of our fish into the great markets of that country, Newfoundland could well become unbelievably prosperous. Will any person in this country today, Mr. Chairman, disagree with me when I say that this is a matter which should have been dealt with by the United Kingdom government on our behalf when these base deals were first discussed in September 1940? But alas, it is too clearly evident that the interests of Newfoundland were not even a secondary consideration. This is the error, then, which we would now like to correct. This is the blunder, Mr. Chairman, which we would try to rectify. This is the national loss which we would attempt to make good. But when we try to do these things, Mr. Chairman, when we try to help our country, when we try to make our future brighter and more prosperous, what do we meet with? We come up against a stone wall of opposition and a denial of our rights to make any such effort on behalf of Newfoundland. Mr. Chairman, incidentally, there's another matter which comes to my mind at this point. If my memory serves me right, in the early days of this convention, the chairman was asked if the convention had the power to send a delegation from its membership to the United States. And on that question being directed by the late chairman to Professor Ware, that gentleman stated that this convention had such power. But today, the convention is informed through this government report that we have no such power.
Just a moment, Mr. Cashin, please. I have to correct you there. The ruling of the late chairman and of Professor Ware was that this convention had a perfect right to send a delegation to the United States to consider possible political union with the United States, should the United States be so minded to receive any such delegation. But not. He gave no ruling whatever on the question as to whether trade negotiations would be on the same basis.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I take it that if we had power to send a delegation to the United States to discuss the political or economic future of the country, it certainly would involve tariff arrangements concerning our fish. The inference is there anyhow.
That is a question upon which I don't feel called upon to give
I
a
quite
ruling at the
understand,
moment.
Mr. Chairman. I quite understand that, because I am sure that if we were permitted to send a delegation to the United States of America to consider joining up with the United States of America, for instance, that one of the first things we'd discuss is about so much of our fish being put into the American market annually. And that is at the present time a matter on which we're not allowed to go to talk to them on. However, Mr. Chairman, I want to know, and I'm sure the other delegates of this convention want to know, what is the meaning of this divergent opinion? Because that's what it is. What lies behind these two contradictory statements? Is Professor Ware right when he made that statement, or is the Commission right in denying his statement? What is the justification for subjecting this convention to two such conflicting opinions? If Professor Ware is right, and I am inclined to believe he is, then the Commission is guilty of an inexcusable act in ignoring his findings.
Mr. Smallwood.
I beg to give leave that I will on tomorrow move the following resolution. Resolved that the National Convention desires to send a delegation consisting of the chairman and 6 of its members to London for the purpose of ascertaining from His Majesty's government in the United Kingdom what financial or fiscal relationship is possible between that government and Newfoundland under responsible government or commission government, modified and unmodified, or under any other form of government, and desires to send a delegation consisting of the chairman and 6 other of its members to Ottawa to ascertain from the government of the Dominion of Canada what fair and equitable basis may exist for federal union of Newfoundland and Canada.
Viscount Addison first wanted to know what we wanted to see him about. He wanted to prepare himself in advance. He did not want to be taken by surprise. Now, Mr. Chairman, compare this with the preliminaries of sending a delegation to Canada. Did they send us a guarded request to know what we wanted to see them about? Did they ask for memorandums? Not at all. They almost fell over themselves putting out the welcome hand. A delegation would be welcomed with a heart and a half. The joy bells will ring out in Ottawa when they arrive. Now, what does all this mean? In the first place, it means that the British government has endorsed Canada's action, that she has encouraged Canada to give us a big hand. And if she has done this, it also means that the British government is prepared to see us go into Canada, that she wants us to go into Canada. For myself, I see in it just a further confirmation of something which I have long expected. I have much interesting evidence later which I may place before this House when the matter of forms of government eventually come up. But for the present I'd say this, and you may think I am talking rashly if you like. I say to you that there is in operation at the present time a conspiracy to sell, and I use the word sell advisedly, this country to the Dominion of Canada. I repeat, some people may think I am talking wildly, but I would ask them to remember that long before this, I made statements in this House which were regarded at the time as wild prophecies, but time proved that I was right. All I ask you then to do in the present instance is to watch events develop in the coming 2 months, then pass your judgment on the statements I make today. Watch in particular the attractive bait which will be held out to lure our country into the Canadian mousetrap. Listen to the flowery sales talk which will be offered you, telling Newfoundlanders they're a lost people, that our only hope, our only salvation lies in following a new Moses into the promised land across the Cabot Strait. By the way, I note by recent papers that there are 30,000 men unemployed in the Maritimes alone. Can it be that things are so wonderful in this paradise that men don't need to work? Gentlemen, before leaving this matter, I would say just this. Look out for those amongst us who would take ourselves and our country on a one-way ride. But let me again return to my comments on the delegation to England. Now, as I mentioned in the beginning, there are some people who...
The thought of the committee was that the best time to read this whole report would be after the terms themselves have arrived from the Government of Canada. Then the terms and this report can be taken hand in hand together because one belongs to the other. That's all I'm going to say about the report. But before I sit down, Mr. Chairman, I want to raise a matter of privilege. There is one thing on which all Newfoundlanders agree. They agree on this. And in no country that I know do they agree more than they do in Newfoundland. They agree on this, that if there is one class of person in Newfoundland, in this country, who deserve the respect and the love and the admiration of the people of Newfoundland, it is the clergy of all denominations. And I regret to say that in this city there is published a daily newspaper which, while we were absent from Newfoundland,
doing work for Newfoundland was contemptible enough to publish prominently a vile and a vicious attack upon a minister of the gospel. And I refer to the Reverend Lester L. Barry, who was not even present in Newfoundland to defend his good name. And that vile sheet, owned and edited by one of the most hypocritical, holier than thou. You take it now. I'm going to get this off my chest, whether Mr. Hollett likes it or not.
Please.
It's coming out.
Order.
I'm going to have my say. I'm having my say on this.
Order, please.
You
Order.
write to your point of order.
Will you sit down, please?
State your point of order.
Mr. Daw, will you be quiet, please?
Chairman, I understood that the assembly here this evening to receive and possibly later discuss the report which the delegation to Ottawa has brought back. I submit that is on the order paper and that alone. I submit that the last speaker is out of order by not speaking to something which is on that order paper. And I, for one, am not going to stay here in this convention room and allow any man to get up here in defense of anybody else at this particular moment.
You can go out. You can go out if you like.
Just a minute now.
You're better
please.
off out of it anyway.
Now, just a minute, gentlemen. If I can't have order in this house, I shall leave the chair. I'll tell you what you're going to do while I sit in this chair. When I go out of it, you can do as you please. But while I'm here, I'll rule. Now, in the first place, Mr. Smallwood's motion was a motion to receive and lay on the table of this House the report of the Ottawa delegation. He made that motion. And before he sat down, he took occasion to refer to an attack which had been made upon a member of this convention. Mr. Smallwood has every right to defend any member of this convention who has been attacked. He has every right to raise it as a matter of privilege. But he has not a right to raise it as a matter of privilege immediately upon moving a resolution to lay this report on the table of the House. Mr. Smallwood, you cannot proceed with that peroration of yours.
Mr. Chairman, I bow to your ruling, and I serve notice that the lid is coming off. And on Mr. Hollett, too, whoever likes it or doesn't like it. This is one time the truth is going to be told about that rag. And I'll do it in the proper moment and at the proper time according to the rules of the House. I move that the report lie on the table of the House.
Is that motion seconded? It's been moved and seconded that this report of the Ottawa delegation be received and laid on the table of the House.
I give notice that I will on tomorrow move the following resolution. Whereas it has been brought to the attention of members of this convention that its presiding officer, both in his official capacity...
Now, Mr. Butt, if you'll wait for a moment, please. I have something to say before you proceed. Just take your seat for a moment. And I have to inform this convention that I have not the slightest intention of tolerating further attack in a position where I cannot defend myself. I am perfectly well aware that a sort of campaign of slander has been carried on against me by persons whose views I am not in agreement with. I am supposed to be in receipt, for instance, of a very satisfying salary as chairman. Even the amount is named. When the simple truth is that I never asked for any salary, I was never offered any, I have never received a cent, and lastly, I wouldn't take it. I have received exactly the same remuneration as you gentlemen receive, and nothing more. But I pay scant attention to these slanders. What I do object to is the slightest hint or insinuation in this House that as chairman of this convention, I have failed at any time to be fair, impartial, and honorable to all members. This chairmanship has meant nothing to me, nothing but additional work and worry and physical discomfort. And I will not tolerate any attempt whatever to call my impartiality as chairman into question. I shall resume my seat in the main body of this chamber and confine my activities to the exercise of my rights as an elected member. But before doing so, I would offer a last word of sound advice, which you will do well to heed. It is this. Remember always, please, that the eyes of the people of Newfoundland are upon us. They are watching our every move and listening to our every word. They are weighing us. At times, I fear, we have gone far to bring democratic institutions into contempt. We have gone far to create a distaste for all forms of elective government. I warn you, remember that not we, but the people of this country are the masters. And we had better not try their tolerance too far if we value our reputations as public men. Gentlemen, this convention is without a chairman.
They got it planned. They got it planned.
Mr. Smallwood.
Mr. Chairman, I move the following resolution. Be it resolved that the National Convention desires to recommend to His Majesty's government in the United Kingdom that the following form of government be placed before the people of Newfoundland in the forthcoming national referendum, namely, confederation with Canada upon the basis submitted to the National Convention on November the 6th, 1947 by the Prime Minister of Canada. So I say to our Newfoundland people, I say to the many, many thousands of Newfoundlanders who want confederation with Canada, and I say to the members of this convention that although the Confederates in the convention are outnumbered almost 2 to 1, although we are a minority in the convention, our recommendation will be respected by the British government. There is no doubt about it. Confederation will be on the ballot paper in the referendum. Our people will get their chance to vote for confederation this spring. The many hundreds of people who have written or telegraphed or telephoned about this matter to me can be of good cheer. The British government will protect the democratic rights of our people against all attempts of a mere majority of this convention. Well, sir, the first stage of our great battle for the people is nearly over. It was a battle to get this convention to adopt my resolution to send a delegation to Canada to get the terms. But that battle was finally won. It was a battle
to get this convention to debate the terms. But that battle was won. Now we are entering the last stage of the first half of the battle. We are going to decide whether, as a convention, we will recommend that Confederation be put before the people in the referendum for their verdict. We may not get a complete victory in this present part of the battle. A majority of the members here will probably vote against my motion. But, sir, by this time, the British government have a very good idea of how things stand in this country today. They are not going to be carried away by the vote of a mere majority of this convention, because they know that 99 Newfoundlanders out of 100 want Confederation to be submitted to them after this convention comes to an end. When this motion is voted on in this convention next week, next Tuesday night, that will be the end of the first half of the battle. Then the second half will commence after this convention comes to an end. Then, sir, a great crusade of the people will commence. A great democratic, popular people's crusade to bring the truth before the people. The truth that we have never had a full opportunity of bringing to them in this convention. Then, sir, we will gladly and joyously call upon the hundreds and thousands of our people who have already volunteered their patriotic services to this great battle for freedom and economic security for the people. Remark this well, sir. This is not 1869. This time, the people are going to know the truth. They are not going to be smothered with the lies and propaganda of 1869. It was easy enough in 1869 to bluff the people with lies about their property being taxed. But this time, the anti-Confederates are not going to get away with it. No, not even if every millionaire, half-millionaire, and quarter-millionaire in the country rallies to the call of the anti-Confederates. The day has gone in Newfoundland when the money bags could tell our people how to vote. That day is gone. We live in a different age. Our people are no longer in the mood to bow down and almost worship a man just because he has managed somehow or other to make a great fortune for himself. We no longer measure a man's greatness or his patriotism either by the money he has in the bank. When we talk about having a stake in the country, we no longer mean what money a man has, but how many children he has. What is the size of his family? How deep is his love for the country and for the people? When we talk about men of substance today, we include something more than just his money. Our people are on the march. In their tens of thousands, they have formed their trade unions and their cooperative societies. They cannot so easily be bluffed anymore. They have learned a lot these past few years. They ask questions today, questions that they never dared to ask in the bad old days. They ask questions about our vicious system of taxation. They ask questions about the cruel and oppressive cost of living. They ask questions about a system of taxation and of government that has held them down and made it impossible for a working man to live decently and rear a family by his honest earnings. Yes, sir, our people are in the mood to ask many questions today that they never asked before. They are not so easy to bluff as our forefathers were in 1869. And our anti-Confederates are going to find that out in 1948 when the referendum takes place. They will set out to persuade our people that under Confederation, their property will be taxed, their homes, their land, their barns and outhouses, their flakes and stages, their fishing rooms and boats and fishing gear, their animals and livestock. You'll have to pay taxes on all these things, the anti-Confederates will tell you. But the people of Newfoundland needn't bother about this. All this will be fully explained to them, sir, before the referendum is held. They'll have to be blind, deaf, and dumb, all three, not to understand, before this referendum is held. I'll guarantee that right now. All three together, blind, deaf, and dumb, not to understand what Confederation means between now and the referendum. Sir, our country is fast becoming a land of festering monopoly. If, sir, I seem to be paying a lot of attention to these modern monopolists in Newfoundland, it is because I know how they are driving the high cost of living still higher. We have seen some of these men become rich and wealthy men. I could name them for you, sir. I could name them for you. I know their story. I know their story. One by one, I know their story. This man, in 20 years, has raked together $1 million for himself by his monopolistic practices. This other man has attracted another million, sir. This has everything to do with the subject of Confederation. Well, as you will see, after I have laid my foundation, you will see my conclusion. Another man has attracted another $1 million to himself. And this third one is well on the way toward his first $1 million. I look about this town, and I see men in the past half dozen years, the past 10 or 12 years, the past 15 or 20 years, who have piled up great fortunes out of their comfortable monopolies. Where did they get their money, sir? Was it by the sweat of their brows? Was it by making 2 blades of grass grow where one grew before? Was it by starting a new industry? Was it by helping to carry on our fishery or our agriculture, our paper mills or mines, or any of our basic industries? No, it was by none of these things. So far as actual production is concerned, these men do not toil, neither do they spin. They are nearly all great supporters of anything and everything that opposes Confederation. They sit and shiver in their stylish offices for fear Confederation will come and sweep their monopolies into the ash can of history. I was never so close to our toilers as during those years of the dole, and always, as long as I live, I will remember those friends of mine, those toilers who were stricken down by berry, those children who felt the pinch of hunger. I saw the heartbreak in the eyes of patient mothers who had not enough to give their little ones. I saw the baffled, sullen rage of fishermen whose greatest toil and endurance could not provide their families with enough to eat or wear. I attended meetings of the unemployed here in St. John's, for who was I to refuse their invitation to go and speak to them? I saw them in their despairing hundreds lounging around the street corners waiting for the jobs that never turned up. I saw them line up in front of the dole offices. I helped to gather old second-hand clothes to distribute amongst the naked. I saw those things, sir, closely, intimately, personally, not for a day or a month or a year, but for year after year, practically to the very outbreak of the late war. I saw them, and I swore an oath to myself that never would I be a party, no, not as long as I lived, never would I be a party to allowing such things to come back to our people again. I would never be a party to any form of government that would make us run that danger again, and that's why I became a Confederate. Our people, sir, yearn for a square deal. They don't ask much. They don't expect riches. but only the modest opportunity by their toil of hand and brain to earn an honest living. They have no extravagant ambitions or fantastic notions of becoming millionaires, but they do ache for common justice in their own land. They have asked for it, but in vain. When wilt thou save the people, O God of mercy? When? It's not kings and lords, but nations. Not thrones and crowns, but men. Flowers of thy heart, O God, are they. Let them not pass like weeds away, their heritage a sunless day. God save the people. Shall crime bring crime forever, strength aiding still the strong? Is it thy will, O Father, that man shall toil for wrong? No, say thy mountains, no, thy skies. Man's clouded sun shall brightly rise, and songs be heard instead of sighs. God, save the people. When wilt thou save the people, O God of mercy? When? The people, Lord, the people, not thrones and crowns and merchants, but men. God, save the people. Thine they are, thy people, as thy angels fair. Save them from bondage and despair. God, save the people. Sir, I call upon every member of this convention to vote for this motion. I call upon even the bitterest anti-Confederate here to vote for it. Hate Confederation all you like. That's your privilege. But do not vote to deny our people of Newfoundland their rights to decide the matter. We here in this convention have not been given the right to decide what form of government this country shall have. The people have been given that right, and they will exercise their right in the referendum. If the anti-Confederates here in the convention want Confederation to be defeated, let them go out amongst the people and try to persuade the people to vote against it in the referendum. But it would be mean and contemptible for them to try here in this convention, just because they have a majority, to try and cheat the people out of their chance to decide the matter. Since the terms of Confederation arrived here and were debated, a new hope has arisen in the hearts of our people. They see in Confederation a new hope for the common man. They see in it a new hope for justice and fair play for themselves and for their children. They see in it the dawn of a new day for Newfoundland. Let no man dare to crush that hope that has arisen in our people's hearts. As for myself, I have accepted the words of the English mystic and poet William Blake, with the substitution of just one word in his moving poem. Bring me my bow of burning gold. Bring me my arrows of desire. Bring me my spear, O clouds unfold. Bring me my chariot of fire. I will not cease from mental fight, nor shall my sword sleep in my hand, till we have built Jerusalem in our green and pleasant land.
Mr. Higgins?
Now, sir, I also would like to say that I concur with the previous speakers in the views expressed by them on the communistic tinge of Mr. Smallwood's remarks during this debate. For the benefit of the member from Bonavista Center, I would quote to him the words of Sir Walter Scott. Breathe there a man with soul so dead, who never to himself hath said, this is my own, my native land. whose heart hath ne'er within him burned, as home his footsteps he hath turned, from wandering on a foreign strand. If such their breeze, go mark him well. For him no minstrel raptures swell. High though his titles, proud his name, boundless his wealth, as wish can claim. Despite these titles, power and pelf, the wretch, concentred all himself, living shall forfeit fair renown, and doubly dying shall go down to the vile dust from whence he sprung, unwept, unhonored, and unsung.
We Confederates were not afraid to let the people decide on responsible government and commission government. We voted to place those two forms on the ballot paper. If the anti-Confederates are not afraid that the people will vote for Confederation, let them vote now tonight to place Confederation on the ballot in the referendum. Come on, let them throw all their excuses out the window and vote for this motion. Let them show us now that they're not afraid to let the people decide on Confederation. I dare them to do it.
The motion before the House is, be it resolved that the National Convention desires to recommend to His Majesty's Government in the United Kingdom that the following form of government be placed before the people of Newfoundland in the forthcoming national referendum, namely, Confederation with Canada upon the basis submitted to the National Convention on November 6, 1947 by the Prime Minister of Canada. Is the Convention ready for question? All in favor of the motion, please say aye. Contrary-minded, nay? Aye. Will all who are in favor of the motion please to rise? Will all members who are against the motion please to rise? What is the result?
416 against 28. 416 against 28. For the motion.
416.
416
Yes.
against 28.
28. I declare the motion lost.
The motion to include Confederation on the ballot paper was lost. But the broadcasts of that convention had had their effect. Smallwood appealed to the people, and a petition of protest was forwarded to the governor containing 50,000 signatures. Confederation was included on the ballot for the national referendum. On June 3, 1948, the results of the referendum were, for responsible government 44.5%, for Confederation 41.1%, and for commission of government 14.3%. No one had a clear majority, which was a necessary condition laid down by the British government. It was also stipulated that the form of government which received the smallest number of votes would be dropped from the ballot if a second referendum was necessary. So on July 22, 1948, in the second ballot, the result was for responsible government 47.4% and for Confederation 52.3%. 85% of the eligible voters had cast their ballots. At 1 minute before midnight, on March 31, 1949, Newfoundland became a province of Canada. Newfoundland has prospered within this union, and we look back to the National Convention with nostalgia. Those 45 men who took part in the National Convention have implanted their names indelibly in our history. Some of them were great men. All of them fought for a cause they felt was worth fighting for. You have heard some of them, and in so doing, you have heard history in the making.